so many comments like, "Oh, he was never funny anyway," you know? It's like, you watched him back in the day. You're only saying this now because of the controversies behind him.
Okay, what is up, you guys? We're back here with another Agnondas podcast. Going a bit away from Pokemon today. If you go down my channel, you'll probably see there's a lot of Pokemon. We're going to be breaking away from that. We're going to be doing some different topics, and today we're going to be talking about Doug Walker. I know this subject's kind of been kicked to death, but we're not going to be doing a
And walked
retrospect.
all over in a sense.
Walkered by Doug himself. We're not going
Meet
to
the walkers.
do the episode where Meet the Walkers, where we do a retrospective. We're going to just talk about our own experiences watching from a younger age till now, watching kind of the highs and lows of Doug's career and what we found interesting. We'll talk about change the channel. We'll talk about all sorts of things. And if you're new here, because I always forget that part, like, subscribe. Don't subscribe, you know. But
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and also don't forget to hit that bell notification.
yeah, the
and
bell.
don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and comment.
Aha.
Guys, I'm new. Let me take notes so I can do all that.
Perfect.
Okay, there's a
I
lot
got I got my notes too. But we don't have Chase today. We have Krav, and we have a new guest. We have Matt. Matt's a bit more versed on Doug Nostalgia Critic content. So that's why we're gonna have a bit of a rotating cast from podcast to podcast. I don't know if we'd call this a podcast, but I'll just do a bit of an intro.
We also hot at more of a podcast.
A Bobcast, yeah.
A Bobcast. That maybe we should change the name. So I myself, like many others, was probably I was watching James Rolfe before. Actually, I should disclose, if you don't know who Doug Walker is, or about the past, or spent your life kind of watching from the sideline, don't watch this video. Go watch a retrospect, because I'm going to talk assuming you know what I'm talking about. That's a big part of this episode. I'm not explaining anything really. So go, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up or be well versed in it. So I started watching him in around 08. I think it came from James Rolfe, actually. It was, he kind of wanted,
they had their showdown
they had a
crossover.
feud. Yeah, they had like a showdown feud thing. But then I started watching his videos. I remember it was in Greece. I was in an internet cafe and I started watching the drug special and the Space Jam episode. And I thought he was really funny. But the one thing I thought was really unique was just how he was doing it and his energy behind the character. And like James, it just kind of became a weekly part of my life. I'd be studying for school, and I'd be watching Doug on my computer like every Tuesday night or something. The anniversary specials, I always liked what he did for Christmas. And eventually got a bit bigger, and I got a bit older, and just, he kind of, to me, the quality, I don't know if it ever went down. I just don't know if he grew up with his audience, because a lot of people who were watching him were 12-year-old to 18-year-old kids. So we're all older now. He's older now. And let's just get into it. Matt and Krav, maybe you guys want to chime in a little bit about your experience with the Walkman.
The Walkman.
Yes. So like the first, I got into them a bit later than you did. Like AVGN and Nostalgia Critic, I found very close together. AVGN first. It was around like 20, like late 09, maybe 2010, 2011 even, maybe. I know I found Nostalgia Critic in 2011, but like okay, so the very first thing I ever saw on him was I clicked on this video. It was a little clip of one of his videos, about 10-second long, where he's just like sitting, banging the desk, screaming at the camera in his high-pitched voice. I had no idea who this was. I thought it was this like 60-year-old man screaming at the mic like crazy. It was freaking hilarious. And then I found out he had a whole YouTube channel with like hundreds of videos and a website, and I was like, oh snap. And then I started watching him, yeah, just for years straight.
And Matt?
That's like pretty identical to my story. It was like I got into AVGN around 2010, I want to say, and then I learned about Nostalgia Critic from their little duel when they were like beating the shit out of each other and stuff. Is where I learned about Doug, and then I first saw his material in these fan-made like clip show things of like his funniest moments and whatever, and then I kind of started watching his stuff, and it gave me kind of the same feel as AVGN, kind of a cozy vibe, and
Yeah,
the media he covered I enjoyed. Like the movies he would review were kind of like I enjoyed seeing them and hearing critiques of them, kind of like James with the weird games he would play.
That's a good
yeah,
point.
and like
Go
there
ahead.
he was he seemed extremely knowledgeable on so many different movies, kind of like how James did on, well, video games.
I think that was the thing, right? Is I watched them because I'd either played or seen the movies, but there's a lot of content that introduced me to new movies,
Yeah,
and
So,
the both of them really shaped my opinion on how I saw things. They I really tried. I think my problem was I got too dedicated to how they thought, and then eventually I did have my own thoughts growing up, and I, you know, uh,
yeah,
a lot of movies Doug likes, I don't like, but I would. It was like the Beatles for me. I tried to listen and like every song when I was a kid, and I tried to watch every episode of Nostalgia Critic and find no flaw in it. But part of that is you can have your favorites, you can enjoy what you want to see, but
you can like your favorites, you can comment on your favorites, you can subscribe your favorites.
and
exactly,
click their bells.
and click their bells, yes. But that I think that and the biggest see we've talked about this extensively, Krav and I, about what Doug has done for cult communities. So there are some cult films that he has brought to people such as us that never knew about them. And the biggest one, and I don't care what anybody will ever say, The Room, the catalyst for that movie getting to new heights in James Franco is because of Doug Walker. If he had not reviewed it, and then it was I tell a friend who tells a friend who forwards this link to watch this Room review, I don't think it would have it would have been a cult movie, but I think the rollout for how many people saw it would have been slower. So I think his influence that way is very much undermined.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that was the first example I thought of when you said cult films was his room review. Because like that was the first time I heard of the
Yeah,
room.
yeah, exactly.
All my friends first time they heard of the room was through his video.
Yeah, like he's the one who I think almost single-handedly responsible for making Tommy was so as freaking popular as he was today.
Oh, totally.
I agree, and I think so he had a good formula for many years, and you could see the burnout, and I think that's why eventually actually I'm not going to go into the movies just yet. What I want to talk about is his other content and why I never really liked it, or maybe if you guys did, you can also comment on that. But I'm gonna kind of group them together. I have notes here. I'm looking at bum reviews, video game confessions. Actually, let's talk about those because those were running simultaneously with Nostalgia Critic in the early days. I felt Chester A. Bum was just not a funny character,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
And that's exactly why I never watched bum reviews.
yeah,
Yeah,
it just
I tried to watch like okay, so like what I recall is his very first Nostalgia Critic's very first episode, wasn't it like this 5 minute thing where he screamed about how dumb Transformers was?
pretty much,
Basically.
yeah.
And then he almost went to quickly went to more of a review format, and then Bum Reviews took over his original style of just screaming for a couple minutes straight.
Hmm.
Yeah, and he would put bum in a lot of his normal critic reviews, like
But
as a
yeah,
like
I
side
agree.
character
But
thing.
Bum Reviews just are not. They were never funny. I never found them funny. Going like this and
Yeah, like I
it's
just found them incomprehensible.
yeah.
They were cheap. They weren't even a
Yeah.
Yeah,
good laugh.
I
And
never
same
found the
as
character particularly like, like you can put together a good, funny, believable bum costume. I never found anything about the characters looked good. The voice wasn't good. Whatever he was saying was pointless. Not very funny.
Mm-hmm.
I
But
think
there
I've
was
seen
always
plenty of bums in my life. None of them were like him.
as Chase would say, he was very generic.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in a sense.
It's
I
like
don't know if
the
generic,
stereotype of a street bum and nothing else.
but
With
like a very
The
poor
cartoony,
attempt
yeah.
at
Like there wasn't really anything else to drag the topic with. Like, it was just him sounding funny with that costume, and it's like, oh, he's a bum. Like,
Yeah,
just
Even
nothing
yeah.
really
the
else played into it to
shaking the cup, he's like,
shoot it off.
change, you got change. Like
It
it just never connected.
It
It
just reminds
never.
me of like Squidward, when he's living in a box.
Yeah.
And how I'd rather be watching that comedy,
Um,
And what's
I feel
interesting
that.
is he was making these at the same time he was doing his, during his golden age of really good reviews, where it was
Yeah.
just like good one after good one.
And
Mhm.
same as video game confessions. And I felt video
I
game
never watched
confessions.
those.
I watched
Oh no, those are the ones where
two
he
of
draws
them.
in the paper, right? And with this like ballroom music in the background.
Yeah, he was like a bartender, and he kind of
Yeah.
had a bit of an accent, and it was supposed to. It's kind of the inner workings of video game characters. He would make these kind of storylines. If it was, I don't even remember because I didn't watch it, and maybe I'm not doing it,
I saw
giving
like
it
one
a
or
good.
two, and I was
I'm not
like,
reviewing it.
I've never seen a single one.
I'm not reviewing it. I'm just saying I don't think a lot of people were really watching it.
yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm. It's like everyone wanted the Critic. All these other shows were kind of like just there. No one really wanted to like feed into them.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's actually a good segue into if we're talking golden age nostalgia critic and the website, especially the other content creators that he brought in my opinion, this is kind of what I want to get out of this, is James and Doug became as popular as they were because they didn't just represent nerds. The everyman could watch them and still connect with what they were saying. They could connect with
Yeah.
the jokes.
Yeah, my little brother
Where
doesn't care about retro games. He watched AVGN all the time.
now the hierarchy of what I just said, in terms of the who watches you more, Doug obviously put all his content at the top. It was his website. It was his domain.
Yeah.
He brought them all in. He pretty much said, people are going to watch me and they might stumble upon you. And
That
he
was
was
one
good.
issue with the way the website was laid out.
Yeah.
Like, I really think they could have done a better job making it more like a Knights of the Round Table type of layout in some form.
Like it's everybody's space, not really like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you have to scroll down real, and the hierarchy didn't even make a lot of sense sometimes, because like you'd scroll down, scroll down. Film Brain, one of my favorites, is near the bottom,
Near the
and then
bottom,
way higher
exactly.
up you'd have people, I don't know, like,
Famous.
yeah, like famous that, yeah. I never seen a single video of his, so I can't even comment.
I agree that he should have had more people featured. I guess maybe that's why he did so many crossover videos, or maybe he was contractually obligated to. But yeah, Todd in the Shadows near the bottom, and I'd always watch
Yeah.
One Hit Wonderland,
Mhm.
and
I
Pa even
visited
had a couple good ones too.
I visited that website once and I never went back. This was like a year after I found out about him. Just because like the layout was terrible. Like I couldn't find anything like you guys are saying.
Yeah,
It kind of became my main source of watching his stuff after a bit, just because I got used to the web layout, and I would keep up with multiple reviewers on the site.
well, YouTube wouldn't let them, like, it was a space
Yeah,
away from YouTube to get away from the copyright. But
exactly.
the
Mhm.
essentially you could tell it was going to implode eventually because everybody got a bit big-headed. I think everybody got annoyed at Doug because Doug in himself developed that ego, and he
Oh, it
really
totally did, yeah.
treated everybody underneath him that they treat they got, I won't say they got dirt in their eyes, but yeah, Bully Maguire,
They
throw
felt like
some dirt
being
in
in
your eye.
his presence, they were owed something equal.
Yeah, and I think they felt like they were all living in his shadow.
Yeah.
And it eventually came down to even just the politics of, you hear how they dealt with certain situations. They weren't feeding them during the movies.
Yeah, like
They were
Doug.
making them, and the accommodations weren't good. And
Yeah, like Doug. As as the website and the content creators, as things started to grow, people started doing it for longer, and started wanting to get more serious with it. Um, for him, it was always kind of like a play around thing. He never took it in a professional sense that seriously. For him, it was always like his fun project. But when it started, but then he had, they started making more and more ambitious stuff to the point where they're making legitimate independent films, and everything's still being done like it's in high school, and that's just not okay.
yeah, the quality
Yeah, there was
Especially
this weird disconnect. Like I know they don't have the budget of like a $1 billion studio or whatever, but like there is that disconnect. You're watching something of their, like those creators, something of their normal vein, but feature length and with a plot, it kind of loses you as a viewer.
Yeah,
The
and
quality
like
was
when it
bad.
comes, when it
Yes.
comes to stuff like the not providing them with food and water, like he railed on Tommy Wiseau for not doing that in the on the set of the Room, and then he did the exact same thing during To Boldly Flee.
The irony that always hits me is his critique on angles and quality of filmmaking.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing
dude,
because like
he's
And
been
he's
using
still
a
using the
freaking
fucking
handy cam.
DSLR camera.
Yeah, he's been using
yeah.
like a handy cam for like his entire freaking time. His film quality is terrible. It's the most ugly looking like image ever.
Mhm.
I liked his older camera because the oldness of it kind of had this aesthetic.
The
The
bush
newer one is
style.
just it reveals
Exactly.
all the blemishes on your face. It makes any beards look gross. It makes like
And on
it's
top of that, with better picture quality, you expect something a little more high end. And not to insult these reviews, it's a genre that we all enjoy, but these, like you said with the old camera, the reviews, it matches that aesthetic, it matches that
yeah.
style. But when you improve your production value, I feel like just these style of reviews, it doesn't really mesh that well together.
Yeah, and you can do things too to, affect that. Like say one, he needs a better camera. You can record a very good quality image and then, filter it, put on some
Yeah,
filters and
exactly.
to make it have that older aesthetic without literally using a crappy camera. Um
Hmm.
The older bush style worked with the yellow background and the plain wall and just the minimal effort because
yeah,
he could still cut the movie in and have his jokes and it really worked. Yeah, when he started
and the
like
crappier
he
mic on his webcam made his voice, sorry, on his camera made the voice sound kind of funnier too.
Mhm. Well, and
Especially
when
when
they
he
went bigger,
screamed.
Yeah.
yeah, but when they went bigger, it's like they kept the same equipment. They have all this room, they have this big office space, and they resort. I always use James as a perfect example because that's a guy who went to film school and has and you can see it especially when he wants to do a big episode of AVGN or when he was doing Board James, the cinematic quality, the cinematography itself, the lighting and the audio
Do you remember that one where it was
was a
the
guy who was
Christmas special with
self-aware.
with where it was like the thing you lay on the floor and you move your hands and stuff around it, and the whole thing was basically this Christmas set where everything in the room got destroyed as they were freaking around.
Oh, with what's his name? The guy with the glasses. Not that guy
No,
with the glasses,
no,
but
yeah,
the
not
other
that
guy.
dude, the other guy with the glasses. Yeah, yeah, like they would be like flying into like the walls and shit, and the slow mo and the angles and the destruction, like the destructible props were like perfect.
Go watch
Uh,
the Mr. Bucket Board
Oh,
James.
yeah, that was a classic.
That
yeah,
one is one of his best filmed. But uh,
Yes.
this is just on the basis of ambitious ideas being done well for the quality in which you're producing it.
yeah,
Mhm. Like I
Uh,
feel like the better equipment suits James better because his reviews are like a story. You know what I mean? Nostalgia critics kind of are just reviews and he shoehorns little plot details in there. It just kind of you said a little earlier, someone who critiques movies all the time, but he can't do this stuff right. I feel that way about his writing. He'll judge writing all the time, but then he has a lot of like either bad writing or writing that doesn't really mix very well.
Probably
Like
because he's got ooh, this is a great segue. Probably because he's got the grand dick of them all, Rob Walker, with him.
that's right.
oh,
Rob works on
Rob
stuff with him.
helps
That's
write.
true.
Rob helps write with them, and yes, Rob. Okay, like Doug is a nice guy from what. Like, okay, so this actually goes to the change the channel, like stuff. But there have been multiple people, like this one specific report of like there would be someone coming up to ask Rob. Like they went outside and saw Doug and Rob in the back, and asked Rob for an autograph, and then Rob was like, "Fuck off," and then Doug was like. Sorry, sorry, just don't mind him.
Do you know who I am? I write the Nostalgia Critic episodes.
Have you
Doug didn't
seen my
come to,
IMDb?
like, Doug seems like a wuss when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, yeah,
Doug's not a drama guy,
I
and
feel like Rob
yeah,
overcompensates when it comes to
Rob. The
drama.
problem with Rob is he thinks, based on watching some of the brother reviews and all the just the little things over the years, I think he thinks he knows what the general populace is going to like, which
That's so true.
I disagree with. I think Doug Doug used to have better timing. I think where Doug's writing really hit the fan was when they started making their own clip reviews where they couldn't get the copyright strikes. They would recreate movies. He was
Oh
Oh,
my
always
god, yeah.
talking about the
Oh, yeah.
irony. He was always commenting on certain ironies of filmmaking and screenwriting. And there's a he really had some jokes that were trying to be really self-aware and very meta, but they were just very poorly executed. But you can see he doesn't really do those kind of reviews anymore, because no one liked them. The
no.
Deadpool or Mad Max. Yeah,
That's
him
why
and
I
his
stopped watching originally.
Unpopular opinion. I actually liked the Mad Max one.
well, and that's good. We need a little bit of a controversy here.
Like I'm not gonna say it was amazing, but like I thought, like, having seen the movie myself and seeing the, as he was describing the recreated scenes, like I thought I didn't have I wasn't having a horrible time watching it. I thought it was like, I mean, in his Doug Walker style, I thought he recreated the scenes fairly faithfully, quote unquote. But
No, yeah, I think
with his very, very limited
as much as he gets harped
desire for
on,
production quality.
he loves what he does, and we can't
Yes.
knock him for loving what he
Oh yeah.
does and the people that he employs. I'm not a big fan of the side characters. I think sometimes, but I think he knew, not he knew, but I think he started to go more towards the 12-year-old girl audience, and I say 12-year-old girl audience and the kind of people who would probably draw like fan art, and like he made this character out of that Tamra girl who was a super fan of Nostalgia
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Critic.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I remember that.
his character started emulating the more nerd side of his audience, and I have a feeling he went to that kind of audience because those are the kind of people who come up and see him at Comic Cons and whatnot.
Hmm.
I think he's met a lot of his audience. I'm not I don't know if I'm making sense. I might even cut this part out because I don't know if I'm getting my point
So
across
I know
well.
what you're saying. Like, he's
Yeah.
catered to,
The nerdist culture,
yeah.
No,
which
100%.
it is, but
He has not lost any viewers. Like, his videos still get
yeah,
like 500,000 to a
yeah.
million views every
There
time he makes an
Oh,
episode.
totally. I've also noticed, I feel like ever since, I guess, the newer reviews, the ones with the theme song, the ones with more of the other characters and stuff, they always felt a lot more sanitized to me. And
Mhm.
I always saw that as a direct result of appealing to that market that you're mentioning. And
Um,
it's
sorry,
not
what
like
kind of
yeah.
sanitized do you mean?
I guess like less cussing, less bad words, you could say.
Right.
Less
And like,
offensive topics.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And like,
Yeah.
I don't really think I never saw it as him changing with the times necessarily, because that could be a factor. But I saw it more as, like you said, playing to that audience. And you said a lot of those people aren't actually watching him anymore. It kind of amazes me how many comments I see on like Channel Awesome retrospectives, like by those great English people you mentioned. So many comments like, "Oh, he was never funny anyway." It's like you watched him back in the day. You're only saying this now because of the controversies behind him.
That's a
Hmm.
good point. Is the perception of Doug now after Change the Channel, after some of like The Wall, because everybody thought he got so big headed, and then he did this interview recently, and he's just really humble. He's just, I guess I went a bit too big. I like what I do, and sometimes I get caught in the moment, and I
Yeah,
wish
it's
more
like, and
people
people
heard
And
give
that
him
side of
so,
him.
everyone has to turn it into like the
yeah,
president launch nukes or
that's sort
whatever.
of like this
Yeah,
massive thing where it's like, oh, Doug is now this like insufferable fool. He's evil. He's terrible. He sucks, and like he's offensive. Like, in what way?
Yeah. I encountered that in real life as Change the Channel was going on. It was my second year of college, and in my graphic design course, there was one person going on about it, saying like, "Did you hear what happened with Doug Walker and all that stuff?" And like, she was very prideful and saying she's never gonna watch any channel awesome content again or anything like that. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, what is there to be prideful of? It's just a
It
channel.
wasn't even Doug Walker as much as it
No,
was other
exactly. He
people.
was
The other
guilt by
guy.
Doug Walker had very
association.
little to
He
do
he
with the
when you're
controversies that went on.
he was the
Like,
Titanic. He was the face, but the Titanic didn't sink itself. The
Yeah,
people driving the Titanic sank it, right? Or
exactly.
yeah,
steering it. So he was the face. He went down with the ship. I think the problem was he was very short-sighted in he tried to avoid drama. He like we were saying earlier, for the projects he was never prepared. He didn't look at, oh, I need to bring catering for all my friends. That wasn't, because I would have that same thought if I had a bunch of friends coming to film a movie, and I was at the just it was a fun dick around movie just to for the fans. My initial thought wouldn't be catering. I think
No,
that's
yeah.
how he was viewing it.
And
So
he
but
wasn't
then they
even the
go,
guy at the top.
we weren't even fed. Yeah, the manager. There was that other guy. I don't
So
remember his name.
as
God,
Doug, wouldn't you expect him to take care of
Mike
that
McCott,
stuff?
or whatever his name
Mike
is.
Michaud, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and
wouldn't-
maybe and maybe that was the miscommunication, right? I think that a lot of this comes down to miscommunications. You know,
You
yeah.
remember how that guy? You remember how that guy like earlier on, Doug basically naively, like Mike was like, "Oh, like I'll run your thing," and Doug naively, like was like, "Oh, sure, like you can have half or majority ownership." It's like whatever, it's
Basically
like
signed over the whole
you
IP.
didn't realize what a bad mistake that was, because then, as things went on, Mike was literally able to do whatever he wanted. Doug could not say a thing.
well, and then that had to,
Yeah,
yeah, and even and then another change the channel thing I know that was mentioned was into Boldly Flee, and we haven't really got dug into the movies as much as I thought we would, but
What we do know is that Mike McCod was an instigator of a lot of these things. Like, he encouraged it
really.
among some of the male uh Channel Awesome staff. He would like kind of almost
He'd
push
be
for
like,
it
"Yeah,
in a sense.
bro," almost.
Like, he would almost push for it or set it up sometimes.
it was a very
That's
Like,
so freaking.
I'm not
male
saying Justin
dominated
was
group.
set up. I'm just saying, like, he would, you know what I mean? Like,
I think
Yeah,
he
you're
wouldn't pull
right.
there's
he
no
would heavily
accountability.
encourage and peer pressure it, and
Yeah, especially if someone else does it. Yeah,
people were also very afraid of him because he was an unrestrained asshole who owned almost all the shares, who could just basically fire you if he felt like it, or do
And
Mhm.
whatever he
Doug
wanted with
staying away
the
from drama
company.
almost didn't help. Doug almost turned a blind eye to it.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
So into Boldly Flee, I remember hearing Nostalgia Chick had this scene that was
Oh
kind of
no.
insinuated rape.
Yeah, I
And
remember that.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
and I always couldn't help but feel that Rob Walker wrote that.
This was this was actually I believe this was Doug's fault, and this was a case of Doug just being very ignorant.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
he wanted Lindsay to do this scene, and like it was off camera. It was just supposed to be behind a wall where she was supposed to make getting raped noises, and no. It was supposed to be an actual kind of scene, I think, and she was supposed
I
to make
think
the
it
noises.
was I don't know if it was supposed to be rape more so as people saying things that sound like rape. It missed like out of
Yeah, I
context.
think that's what it got
Mhm.
changed to.
I don't know,
No,
but
I was gonna say that too. I think they changed it to that after, like, she insisted, I believe.
But she insisted nothing of it, but she still had to end up freaking doing those noises behind the door. Um,
Yeah,
and she did not. And Doug was like, "Well, what? I don't get the problem. Like, well, it's just a joke.
like you
Like,
said, ignorance.
and that was 2012
yeah,
Doug, right? He probably wouldn't make
Yeah.
that. He wouldn't even come close to that joke these
no,
days.
Oh
exactly. He
no,
would not make that mistake now.
One thing I
no,
do
that would
commend
hurt him.
one thing I do commend Doug for is never making a response video or jumping back. He just kept making Nostalgia Critic videos
Yeah,
and blocked out the noise, because there was a lot of pressure and a lot of heat and a lot of people shitting on him for a while. Um, what else do I have in my notes here? Let's see.
I actually did not know that, Krav. That he was kind of an instigator.
Oh yeah, big instigator.
yeah.
That
At
doesn't
least we heard.
surprise me, but
Actually, and this is a
yeah.
good time if people because obviously there's a lot of history packed into this video. If people know things that we don't remember or missed out, let us know in the comments, because we need the algorithmic systems going. No, I'd actually like to know
Indeed.
if we said things if we have the wrong perspective on something. I'd love to hear what people have to say.
Oh yeah.
I want to get past nostalgia critic. So the movies, okay, he did the Brawl with James, he did Kickassia, and
I never saw Kickassia.
he did
I
Me
saw the
neither.
Suburban Nights. And those three kind of, in my mind, I was young and I wanted to be a filmmaker in some degree, captured my, I think I excused the quality back then because it was something honest and it was something I felt I could make. And it really inspired me as somebody who wanted to make ambitious home movies.
Suburban Nights was
Uh,
2010, right?
Something like that. But I think there was four. I think the fourth special was To Boldly Flee, and this was the planned destruction of nostalgia critic. Or
So,
he,
yeah.
Yeah.
but before
But
we
he would
jump into
make his
that,
grand release.
do you guys have any thoughts on the movies or what they meant to you, or if you like them
Oh
or
yeah,
dislike them?
dude.
Take the
Go
floor,
ahead,
Krav.
take the floor.
Okay, so well, um, the the James and Nostalgia Critic brawl, I don't really have much to say. It was just kind of this short, funny thing where it, like,
Fanfare.
in like a, like literally,
Because they're
uh,
both angry critics of old
yeah, no,
stuff.
no, it was fun enough,
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, yeah, I unfortunately never saw, so I'm gonna skip that one. Suburban Nights. When I watched it, I believe I started watching Nostalgia Critic shortly after that came out, and I watched it. I will say it had I had a little trouble staying at attention with it. I watched it all the way through, although I did feel it, like, even at the time, it did capture me in a sense, like you said, although I did feel it was a bit. I'm always like, there. Okay, so there were always these parts where, like, they would have, like, the sword swings that they just, the way they do the action scenes were just really bad.
They're very elementary.
I feel
Mm-hmm. Like a
elementary
direct-to-video Hong Kong movie or something.
scenes in
The,
that, where
them
it's like
fighting at the
they would
park and
swing
shit.
them and they would show them, like, slowing down and not even colliding. Like,
Yeah.
you would have scenes of them just things back and forth, and they're not even colliding with people. They're just doing, like, animations, like, in rotated and random rotations, not even hitting each other, like, just kind of swing randomly. And it's like, I, my guess is, like, this is some. It's like, oh, like, this is some film technique you could use. Now do it. I don't. It's a really bad idea. But
I
yeah,
really
just
enjoyed the subplot in that the one with Film Brain being like Doug's kind of number two, and
yeah,
that other guy, like Colin Mockery, the whose line is it anyway guy, his kid was in it, and he was kind of, I kind of enjoyed that subplot, but I haven't seen this movie in 10 years. I might go back and really hate it. But no, yeah, just the overall quality of these movies was not good by any means.
Mhm.
Matt, what do you think about the movies?
So everything I know about them was
I
kind of recent.
was gonna mention To Boldly Flee as well, but I'll get to that
Yeah,
We're
after.
gonna do boldly flee more as a like a full subject.
that does earn its own subject. So basically, all I know about his movies is that they're awful. But it was around the time I started getting into like writing theory, and I would watch a lot of these analyses of his movies. Like people talking for hours about the littlest things that add up into a product. And his reviews were or his movies were a big topic of mockery among these people. So I would watch them talk about it. I would see the clips they'd show, and I would think the same thing. These are all terrible. And I didn't want to go too hard on the production value because I knew what they had at the time. But at
Yeah,
the
like,
same
this
time,
is
yeah,
late 2000s YouTube. It's like, there's no
yeah,
production value. Like, this is
yeah. But
what was
I
in.
that kind of led me to have a theory where like was it purposefully that way because Doug and the other Channel Awesome people kind of represented that new form of entertainment? Because if you think about it, these guys were the first people of what is now like possibly going to succeed normal entertainment produced by big money. You know, everyone loves YouTubers, and I was thinking in
They
my head, were
pioneered
they?
it.
Yeah, so like, was the production value purposeful to an extent to represent what they were doing within the culture?
I always felt
Right.
that. I always felt the
Yeah.
Yeah,
production
Yeah.
was a testament to their to the idea that it was from the internet. And late 2000s internet was not um was not money pushed, and uh it wasn't people with really nice backdrops and mics and
mhm,
channels. It was very much Bush style. Reviews were Bush style, and that's
yeah,
why people like James and Doug succeeded, because they took it a step above the Bush style. It was like kind. Anyway, what I'm getting at there is it almost seemed ironic in itself. It's supposed to look bad, but then I
yeah,
guess the way people and all these reviewers, and maybe this is why we're a bit short-sighted. Maybe the whole point was Doug was being ironic. Maybe all these people who reviewed him are just digging too deep and looking for all the inconsistencies in Doug and trying to pin him, because all I ever hear from Doug is he just likes doing it and he'll make it any way
yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
So maybe we're just completely shitting on somebody who was never really wanting to be, was never really trying to do anything that far out to begin with.
Yeah, no,
Right, and
exactly.
that was part of my theory was like, because the most I know about which was the one that he was dressed up like Link and showed his crotch.
That was
Yeah, yeah, Suburban
Suburban
Nights.
Nights.
Suburban Nights. Like at moments like those in his movies, I felt like it was ironic, but as an overall product, I felt like in his head he thought they would reach like unamountable success for him and his friends. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I kind of feel like it was conflicted between both. Like
Yeah.
ironically, internet of the 2010s, but also like in his head he thought it would be some big success story. And I feel like beyond saying it's a bunch of friends using their cameras and costumes to make movies, that really is all it was in
Mm-hmm.
my head anyway. And I've never had the time, or like I've never taken the time to watch them in full. All I know is like these reviews from people like Quentin Reviews,
Mm-hmm.
who I think were going a little too harsh, but what they were
Yeah.
saying wasn't inaccurate. You know what I mean?
There's a
Yeah, like
whole.
I do feel
Sorry, you
like
go.
almost everyone who reviews these, there shouldn't, you shouldn't have to say that there's a lot of context, but like there is kind of a lot of context, especially given, these things are not timeless at all. Like, they are
No,
No.
very much of
they're a
the time.
capsule. They're a
They
time
They're gonna
represented,
be
capsule.
in the history books, nothing
they
else.
represented something, in this couple years span of what the internet was at that time. Like, yeah, like seeing people just make their own little home videos like this was
Mhm.
I
cool.
guess
It was cool.
these
It was bad at the
reviewers,
time.
it was cool, but I think the problem is these reviewers, and as someone who's tried to start a couple of different YouTube channels, people want you shitting on somebody. They want you being just as mad
Yeah.
as they are. I
100%. Yeah,
I
because
tr-
drama sells.
I tried, okay, and again, I tried to make these Jake Paul videos where I was talking about how I thought he was a good businessman, and you may or may not agree. But I go and watch the majority of people talking about Jake Paul. Like, Jake Paul, I blah, 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 but like, and there's the same with like, that's why I wasn't getting views, because my content wasn't shitting on somebody. It was trying to open my mind to the idea of what they're thinking. And that's the problem with like Quentin Reviews and all these people. They get harsh because they never go, what if I was in that situation?
Yeah,
What
they
would,
never provide context to anything.
it's never context. It's like, and look at this piece of crap scene, and then they'll just show you a scene. And it's like, this is where Doug started to like, and they just, everything is, oh, I used to watch it and liked it, now I don't like it because it looks like crap
Yeah,
now.
like those
Yeah.
commenters that we
Nostalgia
mentioned.
Critic is at a point now where it's actually nostalgic for me.
No, yeah, literally,
Exactly. Yeah,
I
it's
still
over a
watch.
decade.
The
So yeah,
original top
Yeah.
11 Christmas episode, I'll still go back and watch because,
Fern Gully review. I like that
Oh yeah.
one.
yeah, um, the Surf Ninjas review. I did never watch
Yeah,
Surf Ninjas, but I always thought it was a bit just how he comments on the ridiculousness of certain movies.
yeah. And
Animated
when he shits
Titanic
on
movie.
actors like fuck, what was his name?
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider. Like when
Yeah.
it fits on people like Rob
Yeah,
Schneider
Rob
and
Schneider and
like
Pauly Shore in like
yeah.
Biodome, that
Yeah.
one.
And like Christopher Walken, the way he kind of treats them as like their own typecasts, I find a
Country
lot of enjoyment
Bears.
from that. Yeah,
Yeah,
Country Bears. I'm glad you mentioned that
Country
too. 'Cause
Bears. I'll get you,
that
Bears.
I was gonna get to at some point.
Uh-huh.
The only modern review of his that I think is legitimately funny was the Country Bears one.
I always
When
thought
was
that
that
was
from?
That
couple
was from
years
like
ago.
20, yeah, a couple of years ago.
I liked
But
his
I,
"I'll Be Home for Christmas" review. That one's actually pretty
oh,
good
that
too.
was the one with Mario Lopez, right?
No,
That
this one,
movie.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
I haven't
It's the
seen
kid.
that review.
His essentially his dad pretty much is like, if you come home for Christmas, I'll give you my Corvette or something. You can watch it on Disney Plus.
Oh, that movie! Yeah, I know which one you're talking about now. I've seen that review.
But he's like, he comes up, he's like, yeah, fat man handshake. Like he's like hang out with this like fake Santa, and and
Yeah.
and and Doug is pretending to be the director. He's like, Shh, John, that's not in the script. And I'm like, and he's like, no, and he's like, no, I'm just trying to do my thing. He's like, Shh, don't. I just so he still has his flares every now and then, but
And I remember you mentioned to me once, you still watch him if it's a movie you're familiar with.
yeah.
And I'm in the same exact boat. If he reviews something that I know, I always click on it.
Like he
Yeah.
just came out with a series of unfortunate events.
Oh yeah,
Watch
yeah.
that.
I
Yeah.
watched that one, but the
I was
one
gonna
before
watch that while
that,
making some sushi.
it's like a Pixar movie or Disney movie called Jump. I didn't watch that because I really had no relation to it, and it really
Yeah.
didn't seem. It looked like a filler review. But and we're getting off track. We want to go into Boldly Flee. That was the big
Yes.
thing for us,
Yes.
and where it all really went downhill was this movie took forever. It was boring. It had no substance, and it killed off the nostalgia critic, which led into demo reel.
Mm-hmm.
And demo reel
Yeah.
was
We'll
so
get there. Hold on, hold
yeah.
on,
Comments.
hold on.
You guys
Boldly Flee, then
shoot.
demo reel.
Give me your guys' thoughts on to Boldly Flee.
Kraft, take the floor.
Okay, so I watched this entire movie when it came out. All 4.5 fucking hours of it.
Yeah, it was that
Literally in
long.
one sitting. I just watched it, and I did. I managed to sit through it all. I wasn't actually looking at my watch. Now I'm not saying it wasn't boring. I was just like, I was like 16 or 17, so it's like I could like, I don't know, I could like focus on whatever. Anyway, I was okay when I first watched it. Honestly, I have a tendency to get um okay, so it had this it had these very atmospheric moments sometimes. Like it was this mix between really he was trying to be really deep with this movie. It was this mix of, typical s- like Channel Awesome skit scenes
Trying to be
and
really meta.
this attempt to, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, this very meta, but also like he would try to have a lot of very serious moments in it. I would say it's the first time where he actually had like deadpan serious moments throughout it in multiple places.
Mm-hmm.
And that managed to keep my interest just because I wasn't expecting it. And honestly, the person who did the music clearly is what was a one-off, because the ambient soundtrack in that music with like some of the, well, like when there's serious shit going on and like the ambient music that plays it, you're like, whoa, this is like really good soundtrack. Um, and like some of the, I don't even remember what the movie was about. There was like the plot hole, and you have to seal the plot hole. I honestly didn't follow the plot properly. It was so fucking
The plot
confusing.
wasn't very good. I think it was, but they were trying.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem with To Boldly Flee, is I don't really remember what it was about, but I think it was trying so desperately to be ironic and meta at this. It was trying so hard to be like, look, this is a plot hole because this is. I had
I can see what he was trying
my
to do.
mind internally goes, I know what you're trying to do, but I'm at the same time going, what exactly are you telling me?
Yeah, no. Like the thing is, like
Mm-hmm.
when I was watching it, I was really focused. My mind was really focused on what he was trying. Like I would like one of my things I love doing is I love seeing something that's not executed properly, but kind of living in, at the same time in my mind, picturing it as if it were executed properly.
I know exactly
And
what you're
like,
talking about, and I love that shit as well.
yeah, where it's like, I honestly think the idea behind the movie, it's like the plot, especially how he ran into himself at the end. Like, you can see he's trying to do something really cool, actually. And that's one of the reasons why I got immersed in it while I was watching it, because I could see he was trying to do something actually really cool. The writing was just a complete mess and tonally all over the place. But there were still some moments because of that, because I was
Him
living in
him
that
meeting himself
mindset
was
where I got a couple it was evocative in in very specific places. It was evocative.
Mhm.
James even did that in Board James.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I,
I am you. I'm an extension of you. You're a character I made. I thought that was I thought that was probably the best part of the movie was it finally
mhm.
broke the mold of nostalgia critic,
Like,
but
yeah, like
it
the scene
actually
where he meets
ruined
himself at
nostalgia
the end. I
critic.
thought that was actually I thought that was pretty good. I just didn't really know what they were talking about because the plot didn't make
Yeah.
sense to me. But like I thought that was still a actually pretty good scene.
It was an
And
interesting idea.
also, the CG was unexpected and better than you would a lot better than you would expect for like a random indie movie from 2012 made by Channel Awesome.
I don't
I mean,
disagree. Yeah.
obviously they had outside help for this
On
kind
the
of thing, but like
channel awesome no he never do you think Doug would go get professional help for these? No, these
Not
were
professional help, but he clearly like knew someone or like got some or like asked for someone who is like pretty decent at CGI to
yeah.
like do the house effects and stuff.
Hmm.
Like I mean, obviously they don't look amazing, but like they're not bad. I would say those CG effects.
And Matt, what do you think?
So, same thing with the other movies. The only thing I know about it is people like Quentin reviews kind of shitting on it. And when I watch people like him, I listen to and I like their opinions, but I kind of use the clips they provide to form my own opinion about what I'm
Right.
seeing them review too. I don't kind of just look at their opinion and agree completely with everything they say. And the biggest takeaway I have from this movie is you guys mentioned Doug's ego earlier. This kind of feel like it was him like stroking it
Oh yeah,
with at the end, like
100%.
yeah, like it's not that he's really incorrect in thinking how revolutionary Nostalgia Critic was, because that's true. But when you're in that position as a creator, you shouldn't really notify everybody that you think that as well, because it's just going to make you look like freaking snobby, you know?
Okay, so like yeah, I have an opinion there, which is
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see it as an ego stroke. I just saw it as him trying to do a very creative movie project. I think again, too ambitious, like maybe in over his head with and like again, totally all over the place. Like I really don't like how like I personally I love the part, not loved, but like my favorite parts again were the parts where it actually tried to be kind of serious and kind of had, space and it wasn't making
Oh yeah,
and
that's
when
the
he
biggest
enters that
takeaway from the movie, for sure.
I know.
I would say it's a bit of an ego stroke because to get to that point you do have to be self-aware of who you are. And
Yeah.
that's where
I
I
mean,
get
sure. I mean, you
I
don't. I guess like you could call that an ego stroke
Mhm.
in a sense,
Well,
although it's
it
like
is a presentation of the ego because if I was famous and I knew people knew who I was and I made something portraying my mask, so what I show people, what people's interpretation of me is, like their
right.
preconception, because up until that point people's uh perception of Doug was nostalgia critic. There wasn't really as much Doug, maybe Disney December Doug and just Doug like kind of normal. But so if you're gonna kind of show the process of who your character is to your fans and think you're doing it creatively, you have to, it is an ego. It's a branch of your, it's not saying cockiness, although I in my opinion I do think it was subtly
Well, like
cocky.
ego stroke, it means like kind of cockiness, like oh yeah.
I
I
just
do
think it
feel
was a
like that's what it
presentation
was
of
though.
it.
I don't
I
feel like
think
that was his mindset at all with it. But like,
I don't think it was no, and I want to get to that. I don't think it was a conscious thing. I think
yeah,
he
No, I was
just
gonna say the same thing. I don't think it was intentional necessarily. It's more like unaware of what
Like,
he's
I don't.
currently saying, you know?
Yeah, I don't think he did it because he thought he was super awesome or anything. I think he did it just because he knew a lot of people watched this show and like his character kind of had, the nostalgic critic thing around it, and he just kind of, like
It was the preconceptions too. He knows people
yeah,
watch him. Like
yeah,
people
Yeah,
are
and I
watching
liked
Taboli
the
Flea.
idea behind it. Like, that is a very bold, like, no pun intended, it's very bold, but like good idea too, because as an internet persona, nobody is going to see you as who you actually are.
And
And I
he
think,
killed the
exactly.
way
And he was almost kind
yeah,
of loosely making a movie about that in a sense. Like,
yeah, but it could have been
yeah.
done better, is what I'm
in
thinking.
essence,
Oh,
Is
it's one of
like,
the
totally.
greatest movies ever written, but no one can see it.
you are correct.
Uh,
I
no, that's
really
true.
hate saying it's a
He killed
bad
the
movie because
preconception.
Yeah.
there are just there are things about the ideas behind it and like some of the aesthetics of what he was going for that I think are so fucking cool, but like it was realized very, 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 very uh I don't want to say poorly through and through because there are brief moments here and there that are evocative, but for the most part it didn't have to be 4.5 hours because 2/3 of that four and a half
No.
hours is just
Yeah,
like literal garbage.
I
Yeah.
think the big thing to touch there too is how that's actually this will be a good segue to demo reel in a second, but uh, because that's why he killed off Nostalgia Critic. He wanted to do demo reel, was you killed off the thing that people liked about you.
Hmm.
You
That's what
killed
I
off
mean.
the
Why
very
it's
thing.
like he it wasn't even like the super self-aware conscious thing. He was just kind of living in the moment of what it was, and like he didn't even see what a bad idea that was.
Yeah, and the biggest reason it's a bad idea is because he's basically telling like when you do that, you kill something that everyone likes, and then you tell them to enjoy this new product. They're immediately going to hate the
Yeah,
new product.
He should
Like
yeah,
have
no,
done
right off the
this.
yes.
bat.
He should have done this, right? Coke is notorious for doing like the new recipe and then people hating a new recipe and then bringing back
Hmm.
the
Wait,
old
sorry, what is
recipe.
notorious?
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They'll make new formulas and then piss people off and then bring something back bigger and
Oh,
better.
yeah, yeah, and then bring back Coke Classic, and then everyone fucking buys it and
But I
Yeah.
think
get pissed.
had he intentionally done it like that, it would have been better. Or had it or if the show just changed, it was Nostalgia Critic in demo reel, and it was
Yeah,
Nostalgia
that would have been so
Critic
much better.
was a character in demo reel because he could be criticizing the very irony that was the show.
Yeah, because like you're gonna have people who dislike that he's doing something different, and but the majority of viewers are gonna understand that he is a human being who has his limits with creative projects. At the same time, you shouldn't really leave them completely in the dust.
And I think he
Also,
didn't do
just
enough.
gotta
Oh,
point
yeah.
out how, like,
Go ahead.
going into demo reel, his assumption with Taboli Flea was that he made a really good movie, and that because and that demo reel would be an extension of that. That was a very not a self-aware judgment.
Yeah, and same as
He
the game
boldly
show.
fled the character, and I feel like it could have been done much better.
I
There was
remember.
no build up. If the build up was over a series of Nostalgia Critic episodes, and it was like, oh, this is our final episode. Thank you guys so much for all the
Oh
years.
yeah, that
That
reminds me of
probably.
something I was gonna ask you guys if you know.
Mhm.
I remember the Scooby Doo review he did was kind of like a finale to Nostalgia Critic. Did that lead into To Boldly Flee, or was that after To Boldly Flee?
I think
I
Toboldi
don't
Flea's
remember.
canon, but it's not necessarily tied to any specific review, if to my
Okay.
memory.
I
But someone
loosely
might tell
remember
me
what you're talking about,
otherwise.
but not really.
Yeah,
The
because his Scooby Doo review, the ending of it basically like led to everything in the world fucking ending immediately.
Oh yeah.
And it was the last Nostalgia Critic video he did up until he like rebooted it.
Okay.
demo reel was
Oh
because he
God.
had more they got the office building. He had a budget now, a bit more of a budget. He had the actors. He had his actor side people, his brother, and they just. I don't even think it was ambitious. It was just not good. It wasn't a good series. It was trying to be very creative, and it just didn't really have much. So what, like 4 or 5 episodes in,
It would
he
have helped if any of them were good actors. Doug is not.
yeah.
Doug is not a good actor. None of them are
No,
good actors.
exactly. And that was going to lead me to
It's
something I
actually
was going
weird
to
because
say
Doug
too, where
Funder's
like,
when you watch his old reviews and he's playing his character, he can act his character fine there. But when he's actually like
yeah,
acting for like a
Donnie
production thing,
Darko or whatever his
oh
name.
God, no.
Donnie Darko.
Matt, what were you saying? Sorry, we interrupted you.
I theorize the reason he can pull off Nostalgia Critic well is because he knows movies and like he knows how they should be structured. He knows how the writing should be, how it should look to be a good movie, quote unquote. And Nostalgia Critic is basically him critiquing movies. Like
And it's him. Like honestly, the nostalgic
it's
at first
yeah,
is
he doesn't have to play a character. He just has to be Doug Walker
yeah.
reviewing movies with a
He just
bit
has to
more
be like
like
this version
emotion
of
behind
Walker.
it.
I feel that.
Yeah.
So that's why he pulled that off really well, I feel. But like you're right, whenever he tries to do anything deeper, like to Boldly Flee when he's playing the writer towards the end, it just feels very like soap opera-y, like a very poorly acted soap opera.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Doug kind of being Doug. It was like an exaggerated Doug. Nostalgia Critic is just a character. Demo Reel, I think Demo Reel, the game show came out at the same time, but he wasn't he playing the Nostalgia Critic in that game show with what's his name? What's his
Wait.
name? The other cinema snob, Brad Jones. Brad
Um.
Jones, Brad was kind of like
Oh.
a part of the game show. I don't know. Did you ever see the game show he made?
I never saw
I
that.
heard, but I never watched an episode.
I watched
I know
one
the
episode.
reviews he did, like Bebe's Kids on Super Nintendo, and like
Yeah.
Oh
that
yeah.
got him a lot of hate. I remember like
I
those
don't know why
reviews
that
where
actually
he was a
got-
nostalgia critic, but like beyond that, I don't know if he did anything with Brad Jones in video games.
Okay, so this it wasn't a video game. So the time Demo Reel came out, he
I
had
remember Baby's
like a
Kids.
game show.
Oh, like
Uh,
Jeopardy or something.
It was a quiz bowl show, but the questions were stupid and the people they brought on weren't very smart, and the point system was but it was really poorly done. Like it was trying to be
Yeah.
this fun internet quippy game show, and it completely sucked. So that failing and Demo Reel failing led him to come back to Nostalgia Critic, but then he made some demands as the Nostalgia Critic, right? He could do movies from the present. He could do whatever he wanted essentially, and that's so he could keep his studio and make all his skit humor on the side and his side characters. And a Nostalgia Critic came back. I think side characters is something we should talk about too, because he used to have the odd side character like Mati, right? Mati was hilarious,
Oh yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That guy actually worked
He was
for
actually
Doug.
good. I loved Mati.
He worked with Doug. Whenever Lindsay would come on, I always thought Lindsay is probably one of the most well-spoken reviewers, in my opinion.
yes.
She totally is.
Think-
I'm kind of addicted to her channel. Whenever I
Oh,
watch
no,
one
like-
video, I kind of watch
Yeah.
all of her videos.
Lindsay has a very introspective mind, and she doesn't get blocked by if something's offensive. She's not going to go, well, that's offensive and that's bad. She explores it, and
Exactly.
she's
Yeah,
got
that's
so
why
much.
I respect her so much.
She's got way more going for her than a lot of people out there.
No, and
so
Yeah, she's like
one
my
of the most
media criticism
popular media critics
professor.
on YouTube.
Yeah, she's like one of my media criticism professors, except she doesn't shy away from those bad topics by just saying they're bad and leaving it at that.
Mhm.
You know, she
Also,
kind of
like-
explores why that stuff exists, like what within the human condition would lead someone to either create this or want to consume it. And I
Yeah,
think that's the
yeah.
most fascinating thing about movies and books in general, like all media.
She was the original, like, she was the very, very first Nostalgia Chick, was the very first partner to like Nostalgia Critic. Sorry, like, what do you call it? Like, you know
Like
how
the
he's
Fern Gully
reviewers on
review.
the site? She
Yeah.
was the first. She was the first one. Aside from him.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Doug basically wanted to literally he put out like a thing asking for like a female reviewer who could give like a more female perspective on certain things and also cover things that were that she grew up with that were
Right.
more aimed at like a female like little sorry, like a little girl audience rather than like, Doug having grown up with like Transformers and shit.
Right.
Yeah, right.
The
And
female 80s perspective.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. To give a perspective about that, I kind of feel like, because I mentioned her as kind of like a media critic professor, and you mentioned the potentially creepy moments she could have had. From my perspective, it's kind of like it's good she built her own brand because, like, being nostalgia chick instead of also just being a critic, it gives the viewers and the other people on the website kind of a view of her, like, oh, she's just the female reviewer instead of just like another reviewer,
I
if
agree.
that makes sense.
No, because
Yeah,
nostalgia chick automatically implies like, oh, it's a girl version.
exactly. Yeah,
It's
instead of just being another human being who reviews
it
shit. Yeah,
wasn't Lindsay Ellis or the nostalgia, the just the girl nostalgia critic, right? It had been like, I get the cleverness of the name, I guess you could say, but if you're going based on like credibility, no one's going to read nostalgia chick and immediately go, oh, this person must be so insightful. So
yeah, they're immediately going to see her as like a secondhand reviewer,
she's like
like
a
immediately,
she's like nostalgia critics side piece, right? Like that's kind of how they kind of painted
basically.
her a bit. And
Yeah,
Dude, her book is a bestseller.
she make a book.
she
Yeah,
did make a book. Yeah.
Axiom's End. It's from last year. It actually, I've heard people talking about it. It's like a literal like New York Times bestseller. It's
See, that's what
number 7.
happens when you get someone with actual like real education and intellect dealing with people who just get famous because some people enjoy their opinions. You
Yeah,
get
right.
someone who has that educational foundation and really has a lot of good things to say based off the principle of things they know and context they understand. They're not just throwing words out into the open. They're really thought out and flushed out feelings.
Hmm.
That's what she does better than anybody, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
moving on this course of side characters, because Mati, Nostalgia Chick, and any person who used to come in for to be like featured, right? Today's feature of the week. Then he started getting his own characters for he had the side characters for demo reel, and then they became side characters for Nostalgia Critic, and
Yeah, like
then
Malcolm and Tamra.
yeah, but the one girl left, and then Tamra came,
Yeah, yeah. I don't
and
remember what her name
then
was. Who
Rob
was?
fills in. I don't know what the other girl's name was, and then they had that Walter Benaziac guy, and then they had the two other girls who I don't really know their names, but they'll all join in. Um, and to me, it really took away from Nostalgia Critic because no one ever really watched Nostalgia Critic for the side characters or the
Wait, I'm sorry. Right before we get into that, can I just
yeah.
say one quick thing about demo reel?
Yes, sorry.
Um, okay, so that this was the first time I ever had negative feelings about Doug Walker. So like 2012. Okay, so when I was watching shit like Suburban Nights to Bully Flea, my mindset was obviously like, I love watching Nostalgia Critic. I enjoy all the episodes, but obviously this isn't a real film crew doing this. It's just a bunch of kind of people with no money attempting to make something. And I would often think like, I feel like I can do this better because I genuinely probably feel like I could. But besides the point, like, because just sometimes you look at them, but then you think it's like, they still put this whole thing together. It's like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then when he started demo reel, that was the first time I was like, no, no,
You bastard.
no. This is
Yeah.
You have a
horrible.
budget and you're still doing it shit.
Like, okay, you know what? Like, has anyone made this comparison? Demo reel. Every episode of demo reel, I watched all 6 before he canned it. They're they were 45 minutes each. They were all far worse than Taboli Flea. Like easily, Taboli Flea is a fucking masterpiece compared to any demo reel episode.
So
Holy
I
crap!
don't disagree, even though all I've seen of Demo Reel are similar reviews by similar people as the other movies I've watched.
Yeah, like it was unwatchable. It was fucking like I'm like again, it's like Tabbouleh Fleece is considered like a trash fire, and I even pull like things out of it I think that are actually interesting. But Demareel is a trash fire. It's unwatchable. It's horrible. It is just
Yeah, and I feel like the same goes for us too. Like his movies at least have perspectives you can see, like the creative process behind why they were made in the first place. But then demo reel is just him trying to make something as culturally relevant as everything else he did, except it wasn't even close to being like of the same quality.
It's another one of those things where it's like I don't even like the idea behind demo reel that much. It's like this really strange, contrived idea. It was about some like executive. I don't remember what it was exactly. It was like the executive has to like remake these movies for some reason. I don't remember what the reason was, but I like it's I don't even remember the premise being like as opposed to Topoli Flea where it's like I actually like the premise. It's not most of the execution, but like Demo Reel's premise was so contrived. There was nothing I could take from this at all.
Yeah, it's like he wanted to do it, so the story
Literally,
served what he wanted to do rather than the story
right.
equaling a conclusion that could get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is essentially why it failed. It was just boring. It had no substance.
Yeah.
It wasn't reviewing a movie. It was deconstructing scenes from movies and then trying to be ironically. I don't even know what he wanted to be. Did he want to try
Exactly.
to tell a better? Was he trying to tell a better story? Was he like, no, listen to my version. My version actually is well more fleshed out. But it's like,
It's so hard.
but I'm on a
Something
penny
better.
budget.
Seriously,
budget
and they're
is a-
obviously doing it.
I'm filming out of a
Was doing it
fucking
badly in
garbage can.
purpose, or were they trying to do it and we're just doing it badly? I don't even know. It was so hard to tell.
No, yeah, it's just confusing.
What were we trying to transition to from this? What did I go
Uh,
to?
Return to
like
Nostalgia Critic, maybe?
post demo
Or
Oh
reel.
yeah,
something.
the side characters.
Side characters, yeah.
Okay, well, sorry. I just want to preface with So after demo reel, Nostalgia Critic came back, but with initially he started
A different
um
format.
he started kind of doing it similar, but he very quickly started introducing, like the side characters and skits and stuff. I would say, okay, so at very end of 2012, early 2013, I think it was like January 2013, he brought the Nostalgia Critic back after he killed him off in August 2012 when the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and um, then, yeah, the skits got introduced and they accelerated and became kind of a mainstay by like 2014, 2015, yeah, especially like they were going hardcore there. And then from I honestly have barely watched them since then. I
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, anyway, let's talk about those
I retract my
side
statement from
characters.
earlier. I said maybe demo reel would have been better with Nostalgia Critic in it, but you just gave me a flashback to the fact that between 2014 and like 2017, 2018, he turned Nostalgia Critic into demo reel.
Okay, well, honestly, I think when those movies that were new in theaters that he reviewed that he had to remake the skits to, I
Yeah.
honestly think he did a lot better job with those scenes than he did with demo reel, because in those he was he was only literally he wasn't putting the entire focus on the reenactment of the scene. That's what demo reel was entirely about, the reenactment of the scene. He literally just did those reenactments to have a visual to go along with what he was saying. It was a loose visual go along with what happened in the movie at that point. Like that, it's not really the focus. It's like you're just kind of supposed to pretend you're actually watching the
Right.
movie.
Yeah,
And
but then demo
mostly
reel it
what he's
actually
saying.
was the story going on. Like it was what you had to take as a viewer.
Yeah, at least in like, but like demo reel, the entire point was like, look at our reenactment. Whereas in these, it was like the reenactment were just an attempt to give a visual to like the review he was doing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so really that's kind of what the beef is with the side, if you call it beef. I don't mind the side characters. I just skip through them. I watch to watch Doug. If I'm watching something, I don't need the skit or so they can get paid.
The
Yeah.
skits, though, like the skits are a whole different beast than those. Like those, the reenactment ones, I didn't mind so much because there literally was no other option. It's not like he could get footage
Well,
Yeah.
from the movie.
I pretty much
So,
skipped those. I watched the Jurassic World one and I pretty
Me
much
too.
skipped them
yeah.
afterwards.
I
If I
thought the Mad
saw
Max one was actually like easily the best out of all of them. I
I
don't know
got
why.
about 2 minutes into Mad Max and I Here's the thing: is it maybe wasn't bad, but it wasn't what I wanted to watch.
Yeah,
No,
fair
yeah,
enough.
because like when you same with me. That's why I stopped watching him for a little while. It's like if you want to listen to his review as partially entertainment and partially a critique that you can take seriously and understand, you have to see what he's talking about. And when you see these other clips that him and his crew made, there's just a disconnect. It doesn't really connect to you as a viewer when you hear these criticisms.
Right. I agree with
Because
that.
at that point, you'd have to have watched the entire movie. And I've watched
I guess
plenty of
that's
his
fair.
reviews where I haven't
It's
seen the
like
movie.
with Mad Max Fury Road, I had just seen the movie, so I knew exactly what each of the scenes they were doing was supposed to look like. So that
Same
wasn't.
with me in Jurassic
Yeah.
World, but
Yeah.
even then, I just kind of wished that I could see the real scenes he was talking about.
That is probably why I'd seen Mad Max too, but yeah, I'm more interested in hearing him talk over the real scenes. And that's
Yeah,
what you're saying
right.
is, and if I hadn't seen a movie such as The Room, watching those scenes for the first time was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. Same with me in Country Bears.
You
Like, if
Only gets
watching
funnier.
him react to those scenes.
yeah, exactly. Because if you watch
Yeah.
him reacting to a recreation of it, there's not the same kind of like passion that you can relate to.
If it
Because
was
you're
Doug
also
going,
not seeing as bad as the scenes he's commenting on are.
yeah, because if Doug copied the "I did not hit her, it's not true, that's bullshit," right? If he copied that Tommy Wiseau scene, I would have never understood what he was trying to connect with. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know what you're doing, but he shows me Tommy doing it, and he's going, "What the? Who is this guy?" We're
Yeah,
all
no,
going,
no,
"What is the what? Who is this
fine. Now,
alien?"
there was the recreations, and then there were these skits. Completely different beast here. The skits, oh my fucking god! Like,
You mean the skits in his nostalgia critic reviews, like the newer ones?
not new, not actually newer ones. Like from I would say that middle era. Like
Okay,
he
yeah.
barely toned down on the skits now, but we'll get to that.
Hmm.
But there would be a period of time. I don't remember what around the year range was. I'm just gonna say roughly like 2015, 2016 when they were at their fucking worst. They
Hmm.
they took up so much freaking time. He would have like 45-minute reviews of videos, and literally he would have like 10-minute introduction skits where it's like I'm on the phone with someone, and then they come, and then like Malcolm bursts in being like, "Oh, critic, something, 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 something," and then it's like, and then Tamara shows up, and then it's literally just these. It's, I don't even know, just these completely fucking ridiculous setups. He
It was
just
a
Hmm.
satire. What you're trying to
random
get at is the
strong
satire and
skits
irony
at
they
the
would try to
beginning of
create.
every review, and then he would interject them in the middle of reviews. They would be so freaking long. He would have what he would
Yeah.
do. He would write a storyline. Okay, now this is pretty standard. It's like you have kind of a skit storyline going throughout. It's like at the very beginning, you'll have like kind of an intro to the skit, then halfway through you'll have people like chime, then you'll have a couple chime in moments with the skit where it like progresses the story, and then by the end of the review, it's like the skit will have some kind of resolution. Like take the Room review for example. At the very beginning, it's like um
Back to the
Doug
Future.
dressed up as yeah, yeah, yeah. He bursts in and he has to take him to the future, and suddenly seahorses rule. And then, but literally within 2 minutes, he's gotten to the review. It was a fairly fast-paced, oddly entertaining, brief intro, and then like two or three times he would have these like 10-second interjections where someone would burst in being like, "No, critic, you can't." Uh, and then like at the very end, for just like 1 minute, he would have the little outro to the skit, and it's like I think that is the perfect thing they would do. But when it in like 2015, 2016, and probably even up to 2017, and I don't even know, I don't remember when last time I was dedicatedly watching them, but it was so freaking bad. They would have like 10-minute intros. He would constantly splice long, multiple minute long skits throughout, and have these giant
Hmm.
where it
Absolutely.
was just it was a complete
You're on
and
the
whenever he
nose.
would actually part where he was
Yep.
reviewing movies, it seemed like he spent so much time on the fucking skits. The actual reviews were boring as fuck.
They suffered from it
Yeah.
because he thought
They
he was
were
being
boring.
ironic. He thought what
Yeah.
he was doing was so satirical, so ironic, completely breaking the fourth wall that people were going to be like, wow, look at this writing. But nobody wanted to watch it for that.
Yeah, at that point, I was kind of more into his Disney Sember and like DreamWorks Uary kind of videos.
Yeah,
I was more into the
those were
ones
way
where he
better.
was just, yeah, where he was just himself talking about what these movies were. Because yeah, this you're right, Krav. The skits were just kind of shit.
Yeah, all of the skits were like when he would do them before and he would keep them very brief, they were good.
Yeah, it's almost like I feel like he kind of naively thought Nostalgia Critic was good just because it was his writing and cinematography and directing and shit. And
Right.
he didn't really understand people were attracted to him critiquing these movies in a humorous manner. Like that's what brought people over to his videos.
1000% agree. Like that is
Yeah.
essentially the format he decided to get rid of was what made him.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah.
my annoyance with the skits is all the fucking episodes where they're like, we gotta smoke, we gotta get high, man. They're like, they have the giant fucking, they have these like paper pieces of paper rolled up and crumpled to look like joints, and they're all holding them, and they're all looking like,
Yeah.
and it's just this like parents or like little kids version of what getting stoned with your friends looks like, and it just pisses me off. It's like you're
It's
adults,
weird because it's like I'm
don't make that
sure
joke.
Doug has gotten high
Yeah.
No, but
multiple times
don't make
before.
that joke at all, because it looks, you if you just have a fucking bong or something or a joint and actually be getting ripped with your friends then at that point, because no one's gonna sit there and go ha, ha, ha. It looks so terrible. I don't know why I get so passionately mad about people smoking drugs. It's not
No, no,
something I
no. I
really
know exactly what
care
you
about.
mean.
It's just it's the interpretation of it, right? It's the interpretation
No,
of
the
someone.
interpretation of it, because you know how many people will see this and just think of that stereotype as the default in
It's
real
the same
life
with
as well.
mushrooms, man. It's like people think, oh, I took mushrooms like unicorns and like a flying octopus, man. Like that's the kind of shit he would pull. If
No,
Inexperience.
exactly. And I kind of
Yeah.
get pissed at that too, but that's besides the point.
anyway, that's just me rambling.
Yeah.
But speaking of side characters, and the ultimate side character, ultimate skit filled, ultimate recreation filled, the biggest shitstorm that ever was created by Doug Walker. And you know where I'm going with this, because I
Oh,
mentioned the
yeah.
side characters, I mentioned the skits and the recreation episodes, all in one big pile of shit. The
Oh my
wall, the
fucking Christ.
fucking wall. Let's
The
talk about the
Oh,
wall.
wall.
best
Oh my God.
episode.
Bad. The music was terrible. The lyrics were terrible. The singing was terrible. The acting was terrible. The fucking interpretation was offensive. There is not one good thing I can say about this except for the some of the animation.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
the
kind
what's
of
her
gets to
name?
the point. Like, I know you mentioned Agnondas about how, like,
You can just call me John. I know the podcast is called
yeah.
Agnondas.
On a beach.
So, John, I know you mentioned he kind of admitted that he got a little in over his head during this time.
Yeah.
I feel like that doesn't really excuse the quality of this shit,
No,
you know?
I feel that. No, I agree. And the other guy from Slipknot. Now he's forever.
Oh my God,
He's
yeah.
had
He's
so many.
forever
Oh,
associated with it.
He's had so many side characters like Mara Wilson and all these famous people.
Yeah, Mara
Even
Wilson in his videos. That's
they had
and
Mara
true.
Wilson in
Yeah.
there again.
even
That's like the fifth time he's had her in, and God, that's unfortunate that she was in that one.
even Roger
Yeah.
Ebert had said, I liked your review of Gene Siskel and Robert Ebert review.
Yeah, yeah. He,
And
um,
that was a little bit before he
yeah,
died, right?
And
that was
Don
pretty good.
Bluth and the Animaniacs cast and
Yeah.
Pinky and the Brain voice actors. He's had a lot of cool people. But so he gets Corey Taylor, and I'm not a metal fan or a Slipknot fan, but he gets a guy who could potentially add some value. And brings his son, and he just makes the most lackluster production. And we're met at the end with a fucking rendition of SpongeBob SquarePants. If you made it that far.
I know what's hip, SpongeBob. Everyone memes on that now. Let's put it in the video.
It was
Oh my God.
you're right, Krav, on it being terrible, but I think it's diving into what makes it terrible was not seeing the irony. Again, it's always the satire and irony he's trying to provoke or to get out of things, and it was like a completely missed shot. Like, one, he offended Pink Floyd fans. Two, he offended music fans or any, and three, just anybody who enjoys not having their time wasted, I think, was offended.
Yeah, this is one of those things where what the fuck was he even satirizing? Like,
Yeah, I didn't get that either. I was just watching that shit. I watched for 5 minutes and I stopped, and I
like
was even confused.
it's like he was trying to interpret Roger Waters as being some whiny kid who just like didn't like doing his homework when that is completely not what the deal was at the time. I don't
Well,
even
they
like
mixed
again,
it in
like
with.
what was he satirizing? Did Doug not know this? Did Doug actually think like the song was just whiny bullshit complaining
I don't think he did,
when
but I think
people
he
actually
tried
got
to joke
paddled?
about it.
You know, in the UK, people actually got paddled for like the littlest thing in school by the teachers. Like that was acceptable. Like,
It's
did
Mhm.
he
a
not?
complete separation of culture. It was
Yeah, like the
post-war
punk.
England. It was
Yeah,
post-war England, or during the war, like the air raids England, and talking about the hardships of school and heartbreak. And he said that, like, what a whiny little kid. But the thing was, it wasn't the perspective of just, ah, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. It was a person's story and how things in their past affected their present and their future.
yeah, and
And it was
along with that, he should have taken the time to kind of understand what that era of music, kind of like why it was popular, why Pink Floyd in general was popular, and kind of the context.
The
He should
entire
have kind of
satire
understood
was
the
a strong man.
context behind why it was made.
satire comes from having context. The whole point, if I make a Hitler joke, for instance, and people know me to be very well versed in World War II and very anti, not anti-Semite, no, anti white supremacy and this and that, considering I look Jewish too, right? You see the irony in my joke is that I'm not actually saying something critical. I'm making light of a situation, whether you're offended by it or not. Whether that's my example I'm giving to you or not is irrelevant. What I'm trying to say is Doug is completely deprived of any background knowledge, it seems, of what he's supposed to be joking about. Therefore, it comes off as being disconnected from the audience, whether you're a Pink
Yeah,
Floyd fan or you're a Nostalgia Critic fan, because
That's what it seems like.
fans
But
are
it's like,
going, what are you trying to tell me? What are you doing? What is this? Why is the music so bad? Why are you recreating these scenes in front of a green screen that are so crappy? Why
that's so true.
the
That's
dialogue's
why
awful? It's just, I don't know.
that's why I was so confused at the time, because I just wanted to watch Nostalgia Critic. I was happy he kept doing Nostalgia Critic after quote unquote killing him. And then this shit comes out and it just feels like a music video parodying something I don't understand.
It's parroting the movie that, I've never really watched the movie, and I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Pink Floyd fan. I like a handful of their songs, but I know enough about what the movie's trying to tell me just by looking it up, looking up the
Yeah.
culture of the time. It doesn't, and that's the thing. It's a big swing and a miss, but it could have been a grand slam had you just put some effort into what you were doing,
dude, like who
Mm-hmm.
or knowing,
would not
understanding what you were
understand
doing,
the
understanding. Sorry.
message of the wall? I'm not being here. Like I don't even know Pink Floyd very well, and it was plain as day what the wall was about, and that this was a thing. Who doesn't know that you got beat in school by the teachers back then? Like who
Yeah.
doesn't know?
Yeah, right?
How does he not know this? What is he fucking satirizing? It's mind blowing.
And then he
I
wanted people to buy, not
it's
buy the album,
it's
but to like
almost like
download
he
his
knows he
album.
created a straw man and hoped people would just roll with him satirizing it.
Yeah, and it
Yeah,
backfired.
John, I remember clicking the
It's
link
like he
to
was
the,
in
was
too
it
deep with this
iTunes?
terrible idea.
The guy who wants, the guy who is making fun of Pink Floyd wants you to listen to his versions making fun of Pink Floyd, when you can literally go listen to the songs that are completely structured the same and sound a million times better, that are Pink Floyd songs.
And
Why would you
literally,
listen to, he's singing Goodbye Blue Sky and he's going, smoke a bong and know that it's wrong. I'm like, why would I go? Or no, goodbye Oscar Bates song, smoke a bong and know that it's
like,
wrong.
yeah,
Why would
there's
I
nothing,
listen to
not
that?
even like Weird Al. It's
Yeah.
like literally whoever did the music production on that.
He's actually kind of
I don't
famous, the
know.
guy. that bald guy, the guy who's wearing the school cap. Apparently, he's a pretty big music guy, and as soon as he had it up on his website, and as soon as the review really tanked, he removed it from his website.
Dude, Doug's song's so off key throughout
No,
the
I
whole
know
thing.
that. I know the
And
production's
there
not
was
good.
no
I'm just saying he's
auto-tune.
renowned. He's renowned as being a good music production guy. I don't know who he is. I forget what his name was, but they put a lot of faith in him. But I don't think he could have saved it regardless.
Oh, no,
I'm
no, no.
looking him up
No,
right
believe me,
now.
I could have saved it. Believe me, I could have at least made him sound auto. I know I could have auto-tuned him. I know I could have made the instrumental sound better. The lyrics are trash, but I know I at least could
Yeah,
have made the other
the
sound
production.
okay.
But to
It's
anybody
actually a
listening,
guy
Krav
named Rob Scallon.
Scallon. There you go.
Yeah.
Krav produces music and develops video games and all kinds of different things for anybody watching. And it's not Krav saying I could do it better. Krav could probably actually do it better.
So if I had the thought presented to me, would you like to hear Doug Walker sing? I would say fuck no.
Did
He
we
has
really
the
think?
tone. He has the tone to be a singer, and he's actually done a couple random little joke covers of things before that actually sounded okay. But
Oh,
on this particular
guys,
one, he had zero pitch.
not to interrupt you, Krav. Apparently, listed under spouses is Tamara Chambers
For
Rob
Doug?
Scallon?
for Rob Scallon.
Oh.
Well, there you go. There's
So
the
I
connection.
wonder if that's how
Oh,
Rob
so
got the job.
Tamara's husband or
It
boyfriend or
says
whoever.
spouses Tamara Chambers M 2020.
Oh, so like last year
Oh,
they
they got
got married.
married last year.
Yeah. I wonder if that's how he got the job.
I'm guessing so.
You'd assume
Yeah.
so.
Like, hey,
The
my boyfriend's a music producer. Yeah, let me do it.
Yeah, perfect. You're hired.
Yeah.
We're on a budget. But did we really expect anything from the guy whose intro music sounds like that? And you know what the intro sounds like. Do we expect him to really come up with anything that much grander?
Right.
That
Well, he's
guitar-
apparently been working on music since 2007. So it
No.
hasn't been super long.
Okay, but the
Who
guitar
did
on
the
the
Nostalgia Critic
Nostalgia
intro?
Critic, it's awful.
The production is really, really tinny. Wait, did he do that?
I don't think he did.
I don't know
but
if he did that, but
It's like he wants his quality to be just as shit. Like he wants it to continue to be poor. There's so
I want to
finding
remake it for him, send it to him, and then ask him if he'll use it. But he
finding a
probably
good
won't.
music producer, finding any kind of person who, even bedroom producers who make music just just from their laptop or something. It's not hard to make good quality music. I don't do it myself, but it's not hard to freelance. It really isn't. At the end of the day, because I think we should wrap things up and we'll get to final comments. I like Doug. I like what he's accomplished. I don't always
I
like
love
what
Doug
he-
too, yeah.
I don't like what he's made all the time, but I think for someone who quit his job, I don't know if you ever seen where he quits his job on it, and he goes up to his workplace and like takes his shirt off and says, "I quit." He quit his job and started the Nostalgia Critic, and he made somebody who, to me, is one of the more influential pioneers of internet reviewing, character creating, and I think it's important to remember that without him, there wouldn't be a lot of people on the internet that we like today. So I that's my final comment is I appreciate everything he has put forth, and he's passionate, and I'll probably continue to keep watching him in some form or another. Even when I have kids, I feel like he's going to keep going.
Yeah. If you remember that joke avgn had where he did a Christmas parody episode, it showed himself when he was super old, still reviewing games.
Oh yeah,
I can kind of see Doug reviewing movies when he's older.
Honestly, yeah. And dude, if he just turned 40 on the 17th, by the way. If he turns 80 and he's still doing that, thumbs up, dude. That would be
Two
awesome.
thumbs up, yeah.
Imagine seeing this 80-year-old with the same kind of, remember how I said when I first came across him, I thought he was this old guy screaming through a face, but he would actually be that, and that's what I'll live for.
That's what to see the creation of the old man.
Yes.
Indeed.
Also, I just wanted to say too that uh I just watched a couple of his recent reviews, like Lawnmower Man. He's gone back to his old format. He'll have
He
brief,
has.
like
Yeah,
very
that's what I
brief
like now
bits to
too.
start. And he's very much in his old format, and it's actually good. And when I was watching that review, like that was from a week ago or something, I realized
Mhm.
how like compared to a lot of reviewers, he knows what he's talking about. Like he's
Yeah,
switched from a less of a ranty kind of he's moved from being less kind of a ranty joke maker to more of he'll still have those, but like
He's
he's
introspective and well
he's
versed.
he's more introspective,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
he is filled to the brim with movie knowledge and references that he can just pull up on a dime and make a joke out of. And it's actually very impressive sometimes when you hear just the amount of like comparisons he'll just bring up on the spot or like reference and be like, yeah, or it's like any of the actors in any of these movies, he's known and has seen everything that they've ever done. Like
Hmm.
and like has something to say about it. It's like it's actually quite impressive.
yeah.
It's like it takes you off guard, like compared to most movie critics on YouTube. Like he seems actually far more knowledgeable than most of them.
He's done his
Yeah,
homework.
like even in really like unknown movies that have actors that are very like unknown, he always mentions their name. And
Hmm.
just something as simple as that tells you that he did his research before shooting this video, and I always appreciate that.
Yeah, and you can tell that like it shows he really loves what he does, especially if he puts just as much work into his videos now as he did in '07, and that's pretty admirable.
Yeah,
Matt, I'll give you that your last kind of comment, and we'll wrap it up from there.
sure. So my thoughts on him are he's very inspirational from a video making perspective because you're right, Krav. He knows everything he's talking about. He knows exactly what to say and what to do to get his ideas of a movie criticism onto the screen. And that's
Yeah,
something I've always, I don't want to say envious, but that's something I've always like thought I could also do. And it's been reassuring to know that someone like Doug could do it. He knows what he's talking about. He knows about writing
yeah,
theory. He knows about cinematography. He knows this shit. And he's kind of like me. He knows this shit, but he can't really execute it well. Because my job, I am working for a private school. I make videos and pictures for their social media. And I don't want to say I'm bad at it, but like I know what I'm doing. I'm not like a filmmaker, but I kind of know what the school needs for their social media posts. I feel like Doug is similar. He knows what a good piece of media needs, except when he comes to making that media, other than film criticism anyway, he's not very good at it. He kind of oversteps his boundaries.
yeah,
And like a lot of people see avgn, like they see James as an inspiration for their YouTube careers and making game reviews. Personally, I've always seen Doug as more of an inspiration because as the years have gone by during my very confusing life, I've always been attracted to how good or bad writing is. Like both you guys know how much I shit on writing. I write
Yeah.
essays
yeah,
about it. Doug is kind of like that, except he doesn't know that he can't make a movie. You know what I mean?
I think he knows now.
I think
Nowadays
yeah,
he's
maybe
aware
now.
of it. Yeah, maybe now he knows,
We'll
and
get
that's
into
why
Looking
he's
James
back
in
on
sticking
the
to
wall, he
another
criticism.
was
video too.
probably like,
Yeah, exactly.
ah.
But
And
I'd like to
I view Doug as someone I would like to hang out with and shit on movies with. Like we would just sit there and watch really low budget DVDs and kind of be like, "Whoa, they fucked that up," but at least we can laugh at it. And
yeah.
I
Yeah,
always saw Doug as that. He was kind of a secondary AVGN to me, but
yep,
he was part of
same.
what got me into understanding what makes a movie good or bad. So
Yeah,
whenever I did see him move away from that genre, I got kind of sad. I always kind of thought he was overstepping his boundaries. Like he didn't know that he was good at one thing and he tried to push something he wasn't necessarily gifted with.
Right.
as harsh as that may sound.
No, I think that's a good point, and
Yeah, it's fair enough.
it's
And at this point, he understands because now he's just doing Nostalgia Critic with his normal reviews, and I've started to enjoy his content more
he
as a
finally read the
result.
comments.
Yeah, he finally read the
I
comment.
think he did that. I think he realized he had to take a step back with the skits and the things he was pushing. But you know that we might have to have a whole other podcast. This might have to be split into two parts depending on how long it is. We're gonna get into James Rolfe in another episode.
Yeah, buddy.
But we're gonna wrap it up for today. Thank you, Krav and Matt, so much. I thought we got
Mhm.
through a lot, and I'm sure listening back on this, we're gonna go, oh, I wish I said more, and maybe we will. But till next time, we're gonna wrap it up here. Hit that like, hit that subscribe if you're still this far into this video. I doubt it, unless you skip to the end.
Like,
And
comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification,
bell.
comment, like, subscribe, like, and comment. And don't forget to hit that bell notification. And please like, comment, and subscribe NordVPN.
And you
Yes.
better click the bell.
Yep.
Okay.
Hit those
Well,
notifications.
Surfshark VPN, guys.
Honey.
Surfshark,
Don't forget
baby.
honey. All right. And that's it.
Also,
Oh, no, we're not done. Go for it. Give one more word. Give your last.
Raycon.
Done. That's
They're
it.
better than any earplug phones I've ever had. They at half the price, they have equal the performance.
Raycon butt plugs.
Raycon butt plug.
The end. The end. This is the end. Boom. Done.